thank you very much for everyone joining, and a special hello to all the Grange optimists that I can see. It's nice to see you all. So my name is Hannah, and I'm the Love My Beach officer for Morecambe Bay in Cumbria. And this is the first series of these talks, as Tom was saying, is about plastics, and not just plastics, but also just a bit more about what Love My Beach, the Love My Beach campaign does. So I think everyone is already either involved with the partnership or knows a bit about us, but just in case you don't, at Morecambe Bay Partnership, we're all about conserving and collaborating, connecting and celebrating the Bay. We have a huge array of projects going. We have a really diverse team. So we have projects from beach cleans and environmental things through to our bird conservation work, our archaeology projects and the Bay Cycleway, that we do to be able to have a real impact on the community, or for the community, with the community, and for people that live in the Bay and the ones that come and visit this beautiful part of the world. And as I was saying, I also work for the Love My Beach campaign. So Love My Beach is a Northwest campaign that's all about inspiring and educating people in the Northwest about the issues that affect our beaches and bathing waters. And we try and talk a lot about what we can all do as individuals. And though we might be making small changes individually, together we can have a really big positive impact. And that's what we really try and promote. So go back to basics a little bit. So this is a map of all the different bathing waters in the Northwest that we cover as Love My Beach. So my patch, Morecambe Bay and Cumbria, is in that circle. So there's quite a few locations. We've also got 4 freshwater bathing waters in Morecambe Bay and Cumbria at Lake Windermere. So we're the only freshwater bathing sites in the Northwest. But there's quite a few different spots around the coast that come under the campaign. So Love My Beach as a campaign focuses on bathing waters, and I keep saying the word bathing waters and haven't really explained what it is. So a bathing water is basically a stretch of beach that's designated, and the local authority manages, but the Environment Agency conducts testing over the bathing water season, which is from May to September. They test it for 2 different types of bacteria. One is called E. coli and the other one is called intestinal enterococci, which is a bit of a mouthful. But these 2 bacteria are called indicator bacteria, and basically how much of them is in the water is an indicator of how clean the bathing water is. So a higher level is bad, so it means that the water is dirtier, but a lower level is good and indicates that it's cleaner. So the reason why Love My Beach kind of came into being in 2012 was there was a real fear that stricter bathing water regulations that were coming in as a result of the EU Bathing Water Directive, the bathing waters wouldn't be able to meet them. So in 1988, only 18% of the bathing waters in the Northwest were hitting the minimum standards. So that's the minimum standards for it to be safe to swim and to use the beach for different activities. But as a result of a lot of partnership work with local authorities and the campaign funders like Environment Agency, United Utilities, lots of different stakeholders, by 2016, we'd managed to raise this to 100%, and we've maintained it ever since. Looking at the results for Morecambe Bay, there's 4 different standards that a bathing water could be, where the poor is a fail. So that if a bathing water was classed as poor, it wouldn't be advised to swim there because of the chances of potentially getting sick. But we also have sufficient, which is the minimum standard, good and excellent. And as you can see on the slide, the Bay, we've got 3 sufficient, 4 good and 7 excellent. And the Northwest on the whole is also doing really well with 13 good and 12 excellent. So all positive things, onwards and upwards for the Northwest. And this picture just shows the difference, especially at Blackpool, with the picture on the left from 1990 and Blackpool in 2016 on the right. Really, it's quite clear to see the changes in the coast over the last few years. And I think it's just goes to show what good partnership work can truly bring, and the positives that can also happen. So there's lots of issues facing the coast. This talk is mainly about plastics and litter, but there are a lot of other different things that need to be considered. So I'm just going to work through them now. So the first one, we do have a very wide range of topics that Love My Beach covers, and some of them it can be a bit tricky to see the link with the coast, but bear with me, and they do all link. But unflushables is the first one that can be a bit of a link. So unflushables is basically things that flush down the toilet that shouldn't go. So these are things like face wipes, baby wipes, cotton buds. They end up going down the loo, and they can also, because of the way the UK sewage system works, they can on occasion end up on our beaches. So a lot of times if you're at the coast and you see little blue sticks, they're not lollipop sticks, they're not milk carton straws, they are cotton bud sticks. So a lot of these items are made of plastic, but they also represent a threat to wildlife. And that's one of the key issues that beaches face. Second one is agricultural runoff. So this can be fertilizer that's put on the fields, whether it's chemical or manure, or livestock that's on the field. When it rains, the chemicals and the bacteria that are on the land can leach out of the soil and into the watercourse and end up traveling into streams and rivers and onto lakes and seas, causing knock-on issues like algal blooms, but also increasing the bacteria levels in the bathing water and potentially impacting the bathing water quality and status. Dog fouling, LoveMyBeach and Morecambe Bay Partnership, all about promoting responsible dog ownership. From the partnership point of view and our work with birds, making sure that dogs are under control and on leads, and not worrying birds on the beach and impacting them when they're trying to feed or looking for nesting materials or nesting is a really important thing to educate people on. But dog fouling itself, dog waste has an awful lot of bacteria that can impact bathing water quality and also make people really sick. So it's really important to ensure that people are picking up after their dog and also making sure that the poop bag is going in the bin and not just left on the beach or next to the bin or in a bush, because we're just adding plastic to the problem. Sewage systems and leaky septic tanks is particularly relevant to the Morecambe Bay and Cumbria, seeing as it's a much more rural area. Places like Silverdale, almost every single house is on a septic tank system. So we have a campaign called Call of Nature that was set up a couple of years ago that's all about educating or informing people as to what a healthy septic tank system looks like and how you can maintain it. So it's very useful for people that may not have lived in a home with a septic tank or a private system before, what the warning signs are to look out for and what the impact could be. Because having a private sewage system is, and if it's leaking, the potential impact on rivers and watercourses and bathing waters is really quite high if it's not looked after, not maintained and not emptied properly. Fats, oils and greases is another issue. It might be a bit tricky to think about linking your kitchen in Kendal with the beach at Morecambe, but it is linked. I think in the media recently we've had a lot of news about fatbergs, big fatbergs being found in Liverpool and London. And Greg James from Radio 1 did a radio segment from a fatberg in London a couple of years ago. But basically this is a combination of fats and oils and unflushables and things that have been put down drains or toilets that shouldn't have been, that all mixes together. And when you put hot oil and fat from a roast chicken or roast potatoes or a frying pan down the drain and it hits the cold metal, it starts to solidify. And these fatbergs are basically huge concrete masses that are not only very labour intensive to get rid of, it's very expensive. And bill payers and taxpayers pay, it costs over £100 million a year to clear fatbergs from the UK's sewers annually. So it's a big cost and also a big potential environmental impact. Ghost gear is an important thing to think about. Though the vast majority, about 80% of litter that we find on beaches comes from land-based sources, so that by that we mean landfills or bins or dropped at the beach or dropped on promenades or wherever, ending up in the sea. 20% of the weight of the marine litter that we find is ghost gear, so it's fishing equipment that's either been lost or abandoned, from monofilament fishing wire that's come off someone's fishing pole to gigantic fishing nets that have, I did a beach clean at Drigg a few months ago and there was the biggest pile of nets you've ever seen. It took 2 guys 3 saws to try and cut through the ropes that were like as thick as a thigh. And the impact on marine life can be quite devastating. And also to people as well, the number of times we found fishing hooks still attached to fishing wire is more than we would like. So ghost gear is also a massive threat to our beaches. And plastic, that we're here to kind of discuss a bit more, is the biggie. Litter in general can have a lot of different impacts, from presenting a risk a risk of injury to people or children using the beaches, and also the impact on wildlife. So you've got a few pictures to illustrate. So we've got little blue, innocent looking blue sticks that you find on the beach, which are cotton buds, an armless Barbie, one of my more interesting beach clean finds. We've got down here some volunteers from the West Cumbria beach clean groups collecting ghost gear from, I think this is around Allenby. And then down here we've got some of our younger beach clean volunteers and what is the Morecambe Bay Partnership world record for the most amount of litter collected in one go, which was over 700 kilos at Potts Corner. So yeah, they did a very good job that week, and that year's results were excellent. So yeah, well done to all the volunteers that take part in our beach cleans. So I've got a little quiz to make this a bit more interactive with everyone. So we've got 1 million plastic bottles are sold worldwide every minute. Is that true or false? By 2015, we had produced 6.3 billion tons of plastic. How much of that has been recycled? Is it 7%, 9% or 14%? And the last question is 8 million pieces of plastic find their way into our oceans every day. Is that true or false? So it is true, yeah, 1 million plastic bottles are sold worldwide every minute. By 2015, of the 6.3 billion tons of plastic we produced, only 9% had been recycled. And I've checked my notes, 79% has gone to landfill and 12% has been incinerated. And of the 8 million, yes, it is true that 8 million pieces of plastic find their way into our oceans every day. So thank you very much for taking part in our poll. So the problems with plastic, there's quite a few, and I think we all know some of them. So though plastic is a really, really useful material, it's definitely got its place in the world and in society. But one of the main issues is its durability, which makes it great, but also means it's one of its biggest downfalls. So the fact it's not biodegradable, it doesn't break down. It doesn't break down and rot away. It just turns into smaller and smaller pieces that we call microplastics. We're going to talk a little bit more about microplastics later. It's dangerous to wildlife in lots of different ways, whether it's entanglement in ghost gear or mistaking it for food, causing problems, making animals ill. And one of the biggest things is that it's waste by design. So of the 400 million tons of plastic that we produce every year, 40% is for single-use items, so ones that we are designed to be used once and throw away. So lots of different issues facing us. So just a few images of impacts on wildlife specifically. So this picture at the top of the stag, I believe was in northern Scotland, tangled up in ghost gear. We've got a stork being wrapped up in a plastic bag. This picture of the seahorse at the bottom, I think was the National Geographic photo winner 2 years ago, but just goes to show the cotton bud issue. And on the left as well from Blue Planet, which was when the whale calf sadly passed away. They think because of the toxicity of its mother's milk, because of eating plastic, I believe. So very hard hitting images. But so what can we do? There's lots of things that we can do as individuals to either reduce plastic pollution by stopping it or by helping with the issue, clearing it up. So the first step is simple swaps at home. There's lots of different ideas. These are just some. First off, we've got, a lot of times it's just having to think ahead or plan a little bit more, having to step away from convenience. And the first one I'm very guilty of myself, not getting your meal deal sandwich or takeaways or things like that, and prepping your own lunch, making your own sandwiches, thinking ahead, planning a little bit more. Again, using face wipes or surface wipes, baby wipes, all those kind of convenient wipes, kind of take a step back to what we had to do before we had wipes, using face cloths and flannels and cloths for surfaces. We managed just fine. Without them, we could do so again. Switching out single-use items, especially plastic bottles or coffee cups, for reusable items. I work with a lot of primary schools, and all the kids have their reusable bottles on the sides ready for their drinks. And with plastic straws, this is one of the items that are on the way out. With in the UK, we were banning certain single-use items. Though I know for people with certain disabilities, single-use plastic straws are very useful and really important. So it just goes to show that though some of the items can be switched, if you can switch, it's great. But if you want to use something, it's about kind of doing it in a responsible way, or just seeing what alternatives might be out there. But remembering that, you know, some people have different needs and need different products than perhaps I do or someone else. So with straws, there's a whole range of options that make your drinks look very fancy. So you've got metal straws, there's bamboo straws, silicone straws, ones for boba tea. There's all sorts of different paper straws, all different colours. And then with the cotton buds, possibly one of the easiest swaps that can be done is just switching plastic cotton buds for paper tube straws. Majority of cases they're cheaper, if not they're the same price, if not cheaper than the plastic options. All the supermarket owned brands are cardboard tubes now, whereas the main draw of the plastic ones is the nice colours, but I think it's an easy switch for people to make. Only flushing the 3 Ps is another way to help reduce plastic pollution at the source. So if you are going to use products like face wipes and makeup wipes, making sure that you dispose of them responsibly and appropriately. In that jar here, we've got a face wipe that's been in that jar for over 6 years now, and it still looks as brand new as the day it was put in. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no special treatment in the water, no chemicals, no nothing. It just looks exactly the same, and that's because of the plastic fibers in the material that help keep it, you know, so it can be wiping sticky faces and sticky fingers, that make it so useful. That's why it causes such a problem for our beaches and fatbergs. And then on the right, this picture of the cotton bud sticks. I think all of these and more were collected within the space of about 40 minutes at Blackpool, on one of the beach cleans down in the Fylde coast. So it's quite shocking when you can see so many in such a short space of time. So yeah, so if you do use those kind of products, just make sure that they go in the bin and that the only things going down the loo are the 3 Ps, which is pee, poo and paper. Getting familiar with the refill campaign is also a great way to help reduce your single-use plastic consumption. It's a national campaign aiming to get a refill spot on every high street. So basically businesses, so it could be a cafe or a restaurant or other business like Lush is involved in the scheme. So you can walk into any shop with the refill sticker, or you could check the app to see if they're involved. You can walk in with your water bottle and ask for a free tap water refill. So not only does it help reduce and encourage people to reuse bottles, it also kind of breaks the stigma of being scared to ask for tap water, that some people don't always feel comfortable to ask, but you know, it's encouraging people to just refill their water bottle at no cost. Leaving your comfort zone is something if you want to go a bit further with reducing your plastic consumption, you could try some new products. Not all plastic-free products are as easy of a switch as swapping plastic cotton buds for paper. They might take a little bit more getting used to. So items like solid shampoo and conditioner bars, toothpaste tabs. Instead of having a tube of toothpaste that can't be recycled, you can get chewable toothpaste, like kind of tablets, or reusable sanitary products that also will save money in the long run, but also reduce your plastic and general waste consumption. And exploring zero waste shops, it takes, again, a bit more planning than just heading to the supermarket, but it isn't just grains and pasta that they sell. There's all sorts of different items you could buy, like detergents and herbs and spices, baby products, toothbrushes, all sorts. And you know, in the local area, there's one in Kendal, there's one in Ulverston that are really great, and they are open, slightly different with the current situation, but they are open, and it's a great way to help cut down your waste. And shopping at local farm shops or fruit and veg stalls at the market is also a great way to cut down on your plastic packaging consumption. So instead of buying 4 apples in a plastic bag in Sainsbury's, say, you can buy your 4 apples loose at the market. And a lot of times, you know, well, not all the time, but a lot of times they're also locally grown. So you reduce your carbon footprint too. You can also take action at the beach. So first and foremost, joining a beach clean. We at the partnership have had a really successful beach clean campaign since 2003 that Susanna started, you know, trailblazer. It's a wonderful way to meet like-minded people, good people, nice people do volunteer work, and everyone who's taking part in our beach cleans are wonderful. I can personally vouch for every single one of our volunteers. They are all wonderful. They're out in all weathers, smile on their faces, collecting rubbish, making a massive difference. And since the programme started in 2003, more than 55 tonnes of rubbish has been collected and removed from the bay's beaches. And taking all of the beach cleans that we've done through Love My Beach with schools and businesses and the volunteer-led ones, just last year it was 460 events in total we had. So it's a great way to really see the difference that you've made. So because of COVID, our beach cleans aren't running as normal yet, but we hope that they'll be back up and running as soon as we can. So if you are interested, if you haven't been along, I really recommend it. It's a great way to get some of your 10,000 steps in. So just keep an eye on our website or sign up to the newsletter to see when they are all back up and running again. So another way to be involved is by doing or taking part in a microplastic survey. So over the last few months, my colleague Amy, who's in the photo, and I have been doing some microplastic surveys through our work with another project called WAM, which is the Whole Scale Approach to Marine Management. So we've been doing different surveys all across the bay and seeing what we can find. So the Big Microplastic Survey is a British citizen science project based down south. It's all the information is on their website, and it's their methodology that we've been following when we conduct the surveys. So microplastics are the tiny fragments of plastic that can really cause the most damage because they're easily consumed by fish or by birds and can make their way into the food chain. So it's split into two different categories. The first being primary microplastics. So these are ones like nurdles. So nurdles are the tiny little beads that are very hard to spot, but they are basically pre-production pellets. So they are melted down to be turned into the plastic product like a plastic bottle. Whereas the secondary microplastics are what we would typically think of, which are when that product, the bottle, has been broken down over weeks, months, years by wave action and light that weakens the plastic and causes it to break down into smaller pieces. So you don't always know what type of plastic it is or what kind of item it came from, but with the primary ones you do because they're mainly the pellets. So doing a survey, what's the point? There's lots of benefits of doing one. We, and by we I mean society and scientists, know that there are some of the issues that are associated with microplastics, but there's still an awful lot that needs to be learnt to understand what the problem is and how we can solve it. So some studies have found that some plastics absorb toxins more quickly or more so than others. And some colours have been found to be more attractive to birds or fish than others. So the reason why we have been doing microplastics as part of WAM is to understand the distribution across the bay. So we've been doing sites from Walney all the way around to Half Moon Bay in Heysham. And we found, differences in the distribution just from the few that we've done. So at Half Moon Bay, we found quite a few. And compared to Bardsey, where through our two of our transects, we were there for ages, we didn't find a single microplastic. So it's really important to know what plastics we're dealing with, where they are and the concentrations. And by getting lots of people involved that don't necessarily consider themselves scientists or researchers, we can gather lots more data than if it was just left to the PhDs. So that data can be analysed and mapped and made available for future research. So it can have a really big impact. So to do a microplastic survey, it's very simple. You don't need any specialist kit. If anyone does want to try and do their own microplastic survey, we do have some kit in the office that we are happy to lend out. We've got everything you could need. Just drop us a line and we can definitely sort that out for you. But in terms of the kit that you'd need, it's all very high tech. We've got 2 buckets, kitchen sieve with a mesh that's fine enough to make sure that the plastic particles don't fall out. Some spoons, teaspoons, soup spoons, dessert spoons, any kind will do. A 10 centimetre template, so it can be anything. It can be cut out of a shoebox lid, it can be cut out of a pizza box. That's what I used for some of ours. You need some string or something to make a metre square, which is going to be your sample size. sample area, some tent pegs to hold it down, some empty jars to hold your samples once you've found them, and some gloves to make sure that everything's nice and clean and everyone's safe. So we've got Michelle's son Joseph and I doing our microplastic survey down at Morecambe Bay. We enjoyed it very much. So in terms of methodology, it sounds complex. It's not at all. So the first thing that you'd have to do is just set up your sample area at the rack line. So that's the furthest point up the beach that the tide will reach. So there's often a lot of seaweed about. You then use your 10 centimetre sample, 10 centimetre square template to take 5 samples within your square. So in this picture here, this is the very fancy template that my dad made for me in his workshop over lockdown for us to use. So a little bit sturdier than the pizza box one, but the pizza box does the job just as well. Once you've taken your sediment samples, you chuck it in one of the buckets that you filled with water. You give it a stir to agitate the sediment and make sure that the plastic floats to the top. Pour it out into the sieve. So everything that was floating, so it also includes biological material like seaweed and grass, is all left in the sieve. And then you carefully pick it out, and some of them can be a bit tricky because they are so small and they do blend in very well. They can be easy to miss some of the nurdles. They're not all so obvious as the pink plastic. And then you separate them out into your jars or your coffee bags or whatever it is you're using. Make a note of the date and the location, and then you're done. So after that, once you've done your transect, if you want to do a full thing, you do that 5 times. So in total, you do 25 samples using your 10 centimetre square template. You can use a form from the website that shows you how to categorise all your finds. Are they primary? Are they secondary? What kind of colour is it? And then you can also send your samples off to the microplastic survey offices at the University of Portsmouth, where they will analyse it and look into what type of plastic, what's the likely source, and your data will be of even more help to the fight against plastic. So this is a picture of some of our sample that we took from Morecambe Bay. I didn't have a ruler, I apologise, so it is a pencil for scale. But we've got quite a few different types of microplastics. So we've got some larger pieces of polystyrene fragments. Some of the secondary ones here, the red and the pink, I wonder what they could have come from. And then the nurdles, you can see they're numerous, there's different colours, there's clear yellow that blends in with the sand, which is why it's so hard to spot while you're sat down eating your picnic. Some softer pieces, also kind of a polystyrene, like from takeaway coffee cups. But lots of different, and this is just from one transect, so quite a surprising amount we found down at Morecambe Bay, compared to, like I say, Bardsey, where we didn't really find anything. So the benefits of taking part or doing your own, joining in with a microplastic survey, there's an awful lot. It's one of the world's biggest citizen science projects, similar kind of thing to the Spring Watch bird survey or the butterfly surveys, those kind of things. It's really good, interesting to see the microplastics firsthand, because it can be, because they are so hard to spot. If you're at the beach and you don't see anything, oh well, there's not so much of a problem because I can't see it. It's also an extra activity for you to do at the beach, and in these kind of crazy times of COVID, it fits in really well with homeschooling. If anything were to happen in schools, take a break again, it fits in well with geography or with science, and it's just a wonderful way to be at the beach and also do a little bit extra and feel really good about the work that you've done. So we hope to be able to run some microplastic surveys once everything kind of calms down with COVID again. But as I said, if you wanted to run your own or have a go, we've got some kit that you could borrow, or you could also visit the Microplastic Survey website for more information. They have a really great handbook, and keep an eye on our events page for when we're able to list them in the future. But it is a really good way to learn a bit more and to know that you've had a positive impact if you want to do something a bit different from a beach clean. So there's lots of, thank you very much for listening. If you wanted to join the conversation in different ways, you can visit LoveMyBeach or the Morecambe Bay Partnership website, sign up for our newsletters to keep up to date with when things kind of start happening in terms of events. But also there's lots of interesting news that we're sending out on the regular. follow us on Twitter and Facebook. There's also Instagram accounts with some lovely pictures of our beach clean volunteers and finds. So I thank you very much for listening to me witter on for half an hour. I hope it was interesting. I hope you found it worthwhile. So thank you very much for listening. Got some time for questions, I think. So perfect.
Thank you very much, Hannah. I'm not quite sure how you do a round of applause on Zoom. Maybe we just all have to do that. I don't know.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, thumbs ups we've got.
Thumbs up. Oh,
yeah, clapping. Oh. God, there's all sorts of stuff going on here. Okay. So yeah, does anyone? I mean, if people have got questions, the best thing probably is just to take yourself off mute and ask Hannah directly. I do have loads of questions if no one else does, but I'm going to keep them in reserve. So yeah, either take yourself off mute or you could physically kind of raise your hand and we'll come to you if there's more than one. I noticed actually, Alan, you just took yourself off mute. I don't know if that was to ask a question.
Yes, I was just wondering, Hannah, are there any have there been any studies on primary plastics in Morecambe Bay and where they're coming from? Are they from local sources, or are they coming into the bay from the Irish Sea?
No, as far as I know, Susanna might also be able to jump in with this one. As far as I know, I don't think there's been any surveys as to the source, but it is quite interesting the way they're distributed around the bay. So I don't know. I don't think there has been anything about the sources, but I assume they must just be coming in from the Irish. I don't know where the main initial source is, but yeah.
The reason I asked that question is just at my local beach, and Tom's local beach as well, the Cove at Silverdale is literally inundated with nurdles. I mean, millions, uncountable millions and millions of nurdles. I don't know if that's because we're at the head of the bay and they end up being washed onto that beach. But it's a single beach and they're very difficult. They can't get them off. They're stuck forever.
That's it. I know the only other place, because I had never really noticed them doing beach cleans, and I did an event at Crosby Beach down in Merseyside, and there was so many, you could see them just standing up talking to people. They were everywhere, and I've never seen so many. But I don't know what the source is or how the tides might impact it. But yeah, no, but it's interesting questions for someone to do or answer.
Hannah, so I'll ask one of my questions because it follows on directly from Alan. And I was thinking about it was just about the Cove, Susanna. Yes. And then I'll come back. I was interested. I was just thinking about exactly the same place as Alan, and given that it's a shingly beach, pebbly beach with an amazingly dense strand line, is it possible to do a microplastics survey on a beach like that?
I think, I'm not sure, because this was the issue we kind of had at Walney. So when we went to Walney, we didn't really find many microplastics, and we really thought that we would get loads because the beach cleans at Walney regularly clear like 40, 50, 60 kilos of rubbish every other week. But I think because it's kind of shingly and pebbly, they kind of get blown further up. So all of the microplastics were actually like on the path where people walk at the back at West Shore. So I think with it being pebbly, it needs to be a sandy or muddy beach really to be able to dig down for the sediment, unless, I don't know, if you could shift the pebbles and then go into the sediment and then put the pebbles back. I suppose it depends how deep they are, but it would be worth, you could have a go. I think on the website it doesn't mainly just say for sandy beaches.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone else with a question? Wendy, is it all right? Yeah, Wendy?
Yeah. When we were on holiday once, they had a rack and it had the litter pickers and the bags, and you collected the litter, and I think you took a photograph and sent it up to their webpage, didn't you?
Sorry.
On the beach. I can't remember what beach it was. Was it in Devon? Was it near Widmouth Bay, somewhere down there? I can't remember now which beach it was, but there was a rack and it had all the beach cleaning litter pickers all the way along, and then it had the bags to put it in, and you photographed your rubbish if you wanted to and put it onto their site and registered you'd done it, would that be an idea to have something there when people go?
Yeah, so I think it sounds like the 2-minute beach clean boards. So they at Love My Beach, we have managed to get, they're quite expensive to get. We managed to get some funding for them. So they're kind of these A-frame boards that we get businesses like a cafe at the beach to adopt, because they have to bring it in at night and keep an eye on everything to make sure nothing gets broken or pinched. But yeah, so people can do a little beach clean while they're at the beach, you know, walking the dog or anything like that. And I think, yeah, they do encourage people to use their hashtag and take some photos. So there is a 2-minute beach clean board at on the prom at the Clock Tower in Morecambe. There's one at Haverhill Beach Cafe, and we've got one at 20man's Ice Cream in Allenby, and the Roundhouse at Walney. They also do their own hire litter, pick a £1 deposit, and they'll give you a bag. But that is a really good way that we found to get people to do it, rather than if they can't go to a beach clean on a weekend, or they're working or they're busy. If they're going down to the beach regularly, it's a great way for people to get involved. Yeah.
The Clock Tower one, they don't allow the dogs on there at the moment. But if there was one down at the Battery one where we walk each day, you could go there, because I think the more dog walkers, you get more people on the beach when they're walking their dogs, don't you, really?
Yeah, because they've got the restrictions on now till September, haven't they? So yeah. So that's a good point. Always worth approaching the cafe at the Battery.
Good.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Are you Penny?
No, well, I'm Sue, actually.
Sue, okay. Of course.
Hannah, you were talking about the grease concrete balls that when washing up from a roast dinner, I always put a lot of washing up liquid to sort of emulsify the fat. Is that sufficient, or should I be doing something different?
So the best way to kind of do it is, so if you set aside like an old jam jar, or preferably something that couldn't be recycled. So like if you've got live somewhere where you couldn't recycle yogurt pots, say, you let the oil either go cool in the roasting tin, or pour it into the heat resistant jar, let it set, and then scoop it out and put it in the bin, or into skin. Not all local authorities have the same services. It is possible to kind of collect it and then not necessarily curbside collection, but you can take it to recycling depots. I live in South Lakeland, and I don't think that they have it near where I live, but some local authorities do offer that for like private residents rather than businesses, because businesses also, they have a different system for chippies and restaurants and things. So
put it in the ordinary grey bin.
Yeah, just pop it in a glass jar, let it cool, and then just scrape when it's full, scrape it out. It's a bit trickier when it's like liquid oils, like olive oil from salads and things, but it's best to just kind of put it in the general waste. Yeah. So
emulsifying it doesn't sort of work.
No, it not really, because it's still going to be going down. So even if you were using a frying pan, it's always better to kind of wipe it with a kitchen towel or a cloth or a rag or something before you wash it, to get as much out of the pan and as little going down the drain as possible.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So as Susanna says, like rags or a bit of newspaper or something, scrap.
Work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Bill, you've put your hand up as well.
Yes, thank you. Hannah, I just wanted to know what your thought was about so-called compostable packaging, in that we're seeing more and more of this coming through from envelopes which it says put it in your compost bin. Now, my own experience here, about 25 years ago, I was head of own brand at the Co-op, and we introduced what so-called biodegradable packaging at that time. And a few years later, we stopped doing it because essentially it was starch bases, but all it was doing, actually, it was breaking down the starch and still leaving microplastics behind, in effect. I'm just wondering whether the present day compostable packaging is really compostable.
Well,
is it the right word? Compostable, whatever.
yeah,
Yes.
well, biodegradable kind of, that's the mark, the, you know, bamboo plastics and things like that. The issue that you have when they say it's compostable is it is compostable, but in an industrial composting machine. If you put it in your garden compost, you can leave it there till the cows come home and it's never going to break down. You've got to go in a very specialized industrial system. And where you would take it to be collected to go into that system, that's the issue. So a lot of brands do use it as a kind of way to appear to be a lot greener than they may be. Because, though yes, it is biodegradable or compostable under certain conditions, in practicality it's not really, because it's going to go in the general waste and it'll be treated like any other non-recyclable plastic. It'll go to landfill or incineration.
I have to say that was what I suspected, but that is just greenwashing, as they call it, on behalf of.
I mean, there may be some that are better, but as far as I'm aware from what I've read, and a friend of mine who works in policy in Vancouver, and she's been working on a zero waste initiative for the city. Yeah, the issues that they have is that it's only compostable under certain circumstances.
Yeah.
So
brown envelopes are better then. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Alan, I'll come to you, and then what I'll do is I'll see whether anyone who doesn't have their video screen on, so I can't at the moment obviously see them, wants to come in. So Alan, you go first.
Thanks, Tom. Just a question. I wondered if Morecambe Bay Partnership might suggest to the authorities who've been doing the the bathing water quality surveys for so long now, that microplastics and plastic on the beach be added on to that as a survey.
Yeah, well, it's something that it should be, because it definitely impacts your enjoyment of the beach if you're going to use it. So if a beach is technically clean because the water quality is great, but there's litter or ghost gear or anything that's kind of a bit more dangerous, maybe it should be included. But because the rules are it's based on the water quality, maybe it's like an additional thing that you could get local authorities to maybe take on board, or to publish kind of separately. Yeah, it is a good idea, because it is such a key thing. Because if you find, sewage litter like cotton bud sticks or face wipes or things like that, I mean, that puts you off going to that beach, and it puts you off taking your children there, your grandchildren there, for sure, even though it might be fine to swim in.
It would also form the advantage of giving a baseline data survey.
Yeah.
Which would
have things change.
Yeah, we see some change. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks. So yeah, is there anyone who's not sharing their video screen who wants to come in with a question? If you do, take yourself off mute and fire away. So we've got Fiona, Sheila, Patricia, Sue, Liz, and an unnamed iPad, just in case any of you want to.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Sue, yes.
When there's a beach litter pick that people join in with, where does the litter go? Where does it all get taken to? Does it have to be sorted first?
No, so that's something that we are always looking into seeing how we can make the whole kind of beach clean system work a bit better and be a bit greener. So at the minute, the volunteers collect all the litter in the bags, and it's collected by the local authority, whoever's in charge of that beach. So at Morecambe, it would be Lancaster City Council, and then it's put into their general waste stream. So unfortunately, it's not separated on that end, but there is the chance for beach clean volunteers to try and separate it. The only thing is that the waste can be very degraded or a bit dirty or contaminated to be kind of sorting through by hand, so that it may not be the safest thing. And with the impact of with us finding a lot more single-use masks and gloves as well, it's just a bit of a hazard. So it is a shame that we do find a lot of plastic that should and could be recycled, but practically it's something we're always looking into, seeing how we could make that better and make sure that the general waste stream is as low as it could be and as much as being recycled as we possibly can.
Right, yeah.
Thank you.
So
yeah.
If I went independently down onto Bardsey Beach, which is my nearest, with a bin bag and gloves, and just picked up various bits of litter, do I then put the plastics in my plastic recycling, it actually does go somewhere, or if it's not recyclable, put it in the non-recyclable bin.
Yeah, so if you're going to do it yourself and you felt like comfortable and you were happy to put that in your own domestic waste at home or in your own recycling, then that's a perfect way to make sure it's getting separated in as much as going to recycling as possible.
I just keep thinking that a lot of our recycling and non-recycling just ends up back in the sea anyway, because Cumbria is not very good at recycling. I've sort of heard anyway. Sorry. Good job you can't see me grinning. But I do a lot with somebody else up in the lakes. You know, the lakes is terrible at the moment for litter, and we can only pick up so much.
Yeah,
you know, it's carrying it home as well afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, no worries. Good to hear that you were out doing your own beach clean. That's always nice to hear that people are.
When I remember the bag.
Thank you, Sue. Anyone else not sharing their screen? Who wants to ask a question?
Susanna, I can see you've raised your hand.
Oh,
I was just going to. I have two messages that I'd like to add to what Hannah has said. And one of them is to, for us all to be advocates on this. Hannah's very eloquently told us what not to pour, what not to flush, and to think about how things are disposed of, and to think about alternatives to single-use plastics. And we've got to applaud that. And I just really want to ask everybody to be advocates for those messages. But more than that, I think what we've seen just in recent weeks, since there has been an easing of lockdown and people are out and about more, not only are we seeing far more disposable masks being improperly disposed of, and it's really grim that people might expect somebody else to pick up your mask. The whole point of them is that they're about keeping safe and about being your personal responsibility to look after. So again, I think we need to be aware of that and encouraging to others to behave responsibly. The last message really is around how much excessive packaging has appeared. We had the Blue Planet effect and everybody was suddenly on message and understanding that we shouldn't be using single-use plastics. We made tremendous strides in 2 or 3 years after Blue Planet. And then we've gone backwards massively in the last few months. My car went in for service, and when I went to collect it, the gear stick and the steering wheel and large parts of the interior had been covered in cling film. And I have no idea how that was supposed to help protect me or the person who put the cling film there. And it is completely and utterly unnecessary. And the World Health Organization is very, very clear about this. If it's a hard surface, you can wash it with soap and water, or wipe it with soapy water, or use disinfectant. There is absolutely no benefit in wrapping cling film round and round a steering wheel. And we should be asking people not to. We should be telling people this is unnecessary. Just wash surfaces with warm soapy water and be mindful of how everlasting plastic is. It's a wonderful product. It's light, it's durable, it's easily molded. It has very many magnificent qualities, but the very fact that it's so cheap, which is a good and a bad thing, means that we're using it willy-nilly, but it lasts forever. And Alan's comment about there being parts of the bay where you have thick layers, growing layers of plastics is absolutely true. I know of a couple of places where that's the case. There's one over near Cavendish Dock as well, by Barrow, which we took the Environment Agency to see years ago, and you can put a spade in and dig down for 4 feet and it's 4 feet of plastics. And the attitude of the Environment Agency was that, well, it's sort of trapped there, so it's kind of better off left there. It's kind of better off if it isn't there in the first place. So if we can all be advocates for this message and be part of the change and encourage other people to be aware of that, then we can all be a force for good in the world.
Thank you, Susanna. I'm just going to come to Paul, who I know has been trying to come in while you've been speaking, Paul.
Well, you've given a good set of guidance for individuals, but somehow I think what we need is legislators to try and persuade manufacturers to standardize on the types of plastic that they're using in products and try and do away with these composites things which are making recycling particularly difficult. But then the other one is when it comes to plastic, in some places, apparently, it's landfilled, which stops the CO2 element from the plastic getting into the environment. In other places, it's burned as a waste, which may or may not produce heat, which produces CO2. So, you know, there's different ways of dealing with it, but it's the, we need the legislators or people with more influence than individuals, and maybe Morecambe Bay Partnership as an organisation could try and help persuade those that have influence to do something more about it.
It's a really good point. I was going to ask a similar question, actually. So either Hannah or Susanna, do we know how our local MPs feel about the issue? Have any of them been out on beach cleans?
Yeah, Tim Farron came out on a beach clean. So Tim Farron's South Lakeland MP.
Yeah.
Has been out 2 years, 2018. Came out on a beach clean. We did a couple. We did one at Arnside and one at Grange. And so he's very up on the issue and was, you know, very passionate about when we did find a lot of litter at Grange, right in the corner near the wall. There was tons of it, and it was quite shocking to see, really. I haven't ever been in touch with the other MPs. I think an MP down on the Fylde coast has also been out with my colleague down there, Emily, or her predecessor.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tim Farron at least is the one that I've spoken to, and I know he's very into it and passionate. So yeah, but there's definitely room and there's definitely a place for calling for greater legislation, whether the best way is grassroots campaigning from individuals or like just targeting companies, or, you know, it shouldn't always fall to the consumer, but it very often does. But if we can start and vote with your wallets, vote with your feet, and like not, you know, drive the change yourself. It's two schools of thought as to, you know, the best way to evoke the action. But yeah, it's definitely, there needs to be more from a higher level for sure. But by, you know, galvanizing community action, by making things more normalized and by making people more aware, that as a collective, we then hopefully will be able to drive the change up the political spectrum, right to the top. Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Just looking around. We've done really well, actually. It's 8:07, so yeah, it's been really good level of interaction. So I think I'm looking around. I can't see anyone else. I feel like an auctioneer now. We're looking for the tiny little like eyebrow raises and things. Thank you. I'm really intrigued. So Wendy, are you in a camper van?
Yes, we had to drop off some bikes to be serviced, so we got them on the back of the van, and it just coincided with the time that you were on, so we had to come on the while we're travelling.
You are an amazing advert, I think, for what this series is all about. I wonder whether we could use you as an example. You don't even need to be at home in order to participate. It's wonderful.
No, you don't.
It's been very atmospheric. Pam, I can see you're waving.
Just a question, what news programme was it, Susanna, that you were on? Because I might try and find it on iPlayer or whatever.
Well, it was BBC News at 6 o'clock. I haven't seen it myself. I was just sneaking out, had a quick run on the fell when when it was broadcast. But I've had a couple of messages from people who've seen it, including an old school friend who very cheekily said something about who did my makeup, which of course is a bit of a joke because I think all my makeup's completely dried up in its tubes.
Okay, thanks. I shall see what iPlayer can come up with.
Great, thank you. Good reminder, Pam. Thank you very much. Good. So I think all that leaves me to do then is to thank all of you for joining and making this a really positive start, I think, to this series. So I hope you join us again. I hope you tell your friends. Thank you very, very much, Hannah, for giving such a good presentation and stimulating so many questions. And I hope you're all inspired to go out there and start doing your own microplastic surveys or your own beach cleans as well. So brilliant. Thanks very much, everyone. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.